Gayana Babu, oh Gayana Babu. I am the very best damn Ganesh Babu. In a Jordan, me this time come. Tashdom a nice place on me here. I'll find nothing you'll find here and there. Gayana Babu. One day me come a Josh Tom and me see one tongue y'all walk around. So me ask the tongue y'all what she name. The tongue y'all some up to me and start to come up to feet. Tongue y'all me like you, tongue y'all I love you. Tongue y'all me like you, tongue y'all I love you. Tongyala, what me go do with you? Oh, Tongyala, you sweet like a kalalu. Gayana Babu, oh Gayana Babu. I am the very best damn Ganesh Babu. In the Jordan, me this time ago. Tashdom a nice place on me here. I'll find nothing you'll find here and there. Need them Gayana Babu. Tu come le we do da rumba. Tu come le we do da zumba. Gayana Babu, oh Gayana Babu. I am the very best damn Ganesh Babu. In the Jordan, me this time come. Tashdom a nice place on me here. I'll find nothing you'll find here and there. Gayana Babu. One day me come a Josh Tom and me see one tongue y'all walk around. So me ask the tongue y'all what she name. The tongue y'all some up to me and start to come up to feet. Tongue y'all me like you, tongue y'all I love you. Tongue y'all me like you, tongue y'all I love you. Tongyala, what me go do with you? Oh, Tongyala, you sweet like a kalalu. Gayana Babu, oh Gayana Babu. I am the very best damn Ganesh Babu. In the Jordan, me this time ago. Tashdom a nice place on me here. I'll find nothing you'll find here and there. Need them Gayana Babu. Tu come le we do da rumba. Tu come le we do da zumba. Rock and roll and nagara. And your way is a wakana. Hey man, you mouth full like a girl and you live like a rose. Oh, I love you, Tongal, only God in heaven knows. Me go give you moon, yeah, and me go give you star. Me go buy your house and land with big motor car. And you pack up, you get and there we go. Me got to come back at Josh Thompson. Gayana Babu, oh Gayana Babu. I am the very best damn Ganesh Babu. In the Jordan, me this time come. Tashdom a nice place on me here. I'll find nothing you'll find here and there. I'll find nothing you'll find here and there. La 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 la. La 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 la.
Yeah, this is the elite team, the root team. Strong team.
Number one.
PPP team.
Yeah.
You understand? PPP all the way.
Yeah, one Guyana.
Yes.
Are you confident that you're going to deliver credible and fair elections?
Of course. Only one way I know, and that is the correct way.
Fellow gangs, I wish to bring full clarity on the issues surrounding EPGL stubborn block cost recovery audit for the years 1999 to 2017. From the inception, the government of Guyana position has always been that the Guyana Revenue Authority GRA is the sole and final authority to determine the final output in relation.
But everybody wants the front page now. Some of them had plenty years to change it. But they want the front page now.
As we go forward in Guyana, with all of our newfound resources, with a president such as Dr. Ali, who is my friend,
Mr. Mark, I believe every word of what Mr. Shu is saying. I am also afraid of what Mr. Shu. Mr. Shu, if you are listening, I don't want anybody to harm you. This is a serious thing. Corruption is big. And we Chinese have to stop that. Been bullied by Jack Dale and other government officials to pay bribe. It's big all over Guyana.
Yeah, my name is Jacinti Caldata Francis Vietnam, and since 1965 I become a voter, and I always place my X next to the cop, and what they are doing today, I can't take it. So I have no more vote to give to PPP anymore. I'm not going to vote anymore no more. If they have to lose by one vote, they're losing it by data.
Hello, this is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm, located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
All right, good evening. It's 9 minutes after 9 o'clock. My name is Mark Benchop. We are going to rock and roll this evening. Share the link, guys, okay? Share the link. That's all I'm going to say. I'm just going to say it once. I don't need to repeat myself to you guys by saying all the time, share the link, share the link, share the link. I wouldn't do that. I'm not the kind of guy that I'm not going to beg you guys to share the link at all. Like I said, I just said it once, and that's it. So if I have to say it again, share the link, share the link, share the link all the time, it simply means you guys don't respect us here at 107.1 FM. And so we just say it once. Share the link once. That's all we say it. Sorry that I had to repeat myself so that I get the message across. Thank you so much. Look, these youngsters all the way in Singapore, the ladies, the young ladies, they did us proud. But how many of you guys shared this information? How many of you guys were talking about this information? But y'all talking about major hike or take a hike, some major hike or who hike and somebody spike or whatever. How many of you guys have congratulated these young people? Huh? Every minute, Major Hike said this, Major Hike said Guyana is not in the Caribbean, and all you get vexed over a comedian. But a comedian probably doesn't even know the geography, probably doesn't even understand social studies and these sort of things. And all y'all hotting up y'all blood pressure night and day, day and night, night and day, day and night. Major Hike, Major Hike, Major Hike, Major Hike. Is what wrong with all you, man? All you share and congratulate these young people. All if you focus on some, all you don't even. Let me forget about this Trinidadian accent, right? I don't know what's going on. Ganesh Mahipaul was missing from this show for a while. He gave up on us. He wanted nothing to do with us. Absolutely nothing. He played Braiga, as we usually see on the current team. He played Braiga. He turned big thing now. He never get time with Abby no more. But here he is. He's traveling all over. 1 minute he's in India. 1 minute he's in America. He all over the place. But when was the last time we've seen him at Parika Market? He doesn't go Parika Market no more. There's supermarket. He goes to Andrews Air Conditioned Market. I don't know what's going on. Tomati there, Bora there, okra there. Ganesh Mahipaul, the Honorable MP, good evening and welcome back home. How are you?
Good evening, Mark. And for the record, I was in Parika 3 days ago where I ended up in an accident. And the person who was wrong to me had to fix my vehicle. So I don't know how you're saying I wasn't in Parika. I was there 3 days ago.
But you said you had an accident, right?
Yes.
You heard of the accident the crab lady in Jamaica got? Not that kind of accident.
I'm good, Mark. How are you? How are you doing?
Good to see you. Really good to see you.
Somebody's saying you are doing well too.
Yeah. Somebody's saying in the audience that maybe he was in his feelings. Ganesh,
but I'm here, and
it's really good to have you back. It's really good to see you. You have been missing from us here for a while, but I know you have been busy. You've been doing your stuff and so forth. Let me give you first the opportunity to congratulate the Guyana the girls robotic team. They did us all proud in Singapore.
Oh, definitely. Yes, they did us extremely well, and they deserve all the commendation that there is to offer. And it is good to see our young ladies performing well. And I mean, no disrespect to our male citizens, but it's good to know that our ladies are taking the front page in terms of leading with this robotics team and doing extremely well. I congratulate them. I wish them well, and I hope to see them getting first in their other competitions, and hopefully they become very, very successful in representing the Guyanese flag.
Thank you so much. Hopefully the opposition, the combined opposition will issue a statement congratulating these folks. In the event that I missed it, it's not on the page. It's nowhere really around, but we should see more of this coming out of a press release coming out of the opposition, congratulating our young people indeed. Ganesh, let's move forward, sir. Again, really nice to have you on with us. What it says here, this was back in 2022, almost a year today. 2022, we're hearing the opposition's Ganesh Mahipaul wants a clean voters list. Ganesh Mahipaul, speaking on behalf of thousands upon thousands of people, wants a clean voters list. What has happened to that and any progress?
Well, I know that the call is still there for a clean voters list. A clean voters list is fundamental in our electoral process. And I have always said that in terms for us to have a credible elections, it must start with a credible list. And the credible list ought to be a clean voters list that reflects the true identity of the voters who will cast their ballot, and that call is still being made. And I know that Tuesdays between the hours of 12 to 1, protest actions normally go on at GCOM headquarters there, pushing for that clean voters list, pushing for biometrics, and pushing for measures that will ensure and guarantee the citizens of Guyana what they rightly deserve, and that is credible elections. You cannot have credible elections unless the fundamental is met. And in this instance, that fundamental is a credible voters list. So that call continues to be made. I will appeal that everybody who's listening here, and they can tell their neighbor, they can tell their friends, they can tell whomever, that there is need for a credible voters list. And that call is continuously being made.
You think it's falling on deaf ear? Because look, here, you got a couple of people every Tuesday, just a couple of people every Tuesday. I'm not sure when was the last time, and this is not knocking up on the members of parliament. I know some of you guys are busy doing your thing on behalf of the people, some of you guys. But do you think it is falling on deaf ears, whereas you just say clean voters list? But Claudette Singh, the chairman of GCOM, is doing nothing. No other official at GCOM is doing anything at all. And just to look outside their windows and see a couple of people there every Tuesday, do you think that is sufficient, sir?
I don't think it is falling on deaf ears, because not only are we standing in front of Claudette's office expressing our view in the form of a protest, but we are also engaging the diplomatic community. I can tell you with comfort that when we met with Hakeem Jeffries and the representatives from the Black Congressional Caucus there in the United States, that was also one of our pitch to them, the importance of a clean voters list to reflect the true will of the electorate. And in any democracy, one wants to see transparency in their elections. And that is one of the points that we did hammer home. And I know that there are other members of the diplomatic family that we have continuously engaged with reference to a clean voters list. And that action will continue. We will continue to say that credible elections need a credible voters list. Whether it is enough what we are doing, I think that there is need for more people to join with us in the call for a credible voters list. And even members who embrace the People's Progressive Party, if they honestly and sincerely believe that the will of the Guyanese people want the PPP, then prove it by joining that call for a credible voters list and let the will of the people reflect that that is the party that they want. I maintain that the People's Progressive Party is squatting in office. The election results of 2020 proved that. And we must always remember, and we must never forget, that elections 2020 had great irregularities, great anomalies, great abnormalities. We must remember that there were 49 ballot boxes where there were no statutory documents to verify the votes that are found in those ballot boxes. We must remember that there are a number of dead people whose names were ticked off on the official list of electors indicating that they voted. That is information that was verified by the GRO. We must remember that there were a number of people who migrated. They did not return on or before March 2nd, 2020, and their names were ticked off as voted. That was verified by the chief immigrations officer. And when Claudette Singh saw all of this and got the confirmation that it happened, her response to it was that it's a serious matter and it requires a serious attention. That is all that she said. But they still went ahead and they declared the People's Progressive Party as the victor in this, not knowing full well that there are so many anomalies that surround elections 2020. So when I say, Mark, that the People's Progressive Party is squatting in office, it is not that I'm pulling those terms out of the air. It is substantiated by the findings of the elections recount of 2020. So we have a squatting government who is there running our country, administering it in the most criminal of manner when you take into account the degree of corruption that people are leveling against them. When you look at how Tender Board is awarding contracts, when you look at the flip-flap manner in which people are getting these contracts to spend government money, when you look at the family, friends, and favorites that they have in respective offices, when you're getting complaints about contractors registering companies, one contractor having 2 or 3 companies, you're hearing ministers are associated to companies, you're hearing they have a middleman or they have a sham person that the company is registered in, but they are really the investor and they're getting the kickback from it. All of these things are the hallmark of the PPP. Corruption is like their middle name, and perhaps the PPPC, the C in their acronym, perhaps stands for corruption.
Absolutely. Stands for corruption indeed. Ganesh Mahipaul, Member of Parliament, is here. We've been hearing about the middleman, the PPP, especially once Jack Davis around, is always accustomed to have a middleman. We've heard that Sue was a middleman. We've heard that there have been so many middlemen in Guyana. And once Jack Davis is there, look around, there's always a middleman.
And I must say this too, the amount of people who are currently complaining about being disenfranchised, they're complaining about not enjoying the wealth of the oil money, they're complaining of it, of not feeling the impact that this booming economy is supposed to have in their lives. The number of people who are complaining is so huge that I believe the opposition at this point in time enjoys the greatest number of supporters ever than before. And the People's Progressive Party knows that. And that is why they are not focused on ensuring that you have a credible election list to go to a credible election. And I think the People's Progressive Party, look how long we had a census. That census has been conducting for the longest while. They have the results of it. They're not releasing it because the findings from the census is not pleasurable to them. So they don't want the populace to see what is it that what is it that the census had, the numbers, the figures. They're basically afraid of that census. They're not releasing it. We have complaints upon complaints about the Venezuelan migrants who are coming into Guyana, and this is by no means me saying that they don't have a right to seek a refugee status, or they don't have a right to basically seek help running away from what is their turmoil in their country. But then the ease with which we are hearing them getting registration and so on, I believe that it is to put them on the voters list, and that is something that we have to monitor. It is something that we have been monitoring, and we will continue to monitor it, because we cannot continue to have that list being bloated up to reflect what is not the reality in terms of Guyanese being eligible to be on the list to cast a ballot at elections time.
24 minutes after 9 o'clock, Ganesh Mahipaul is here with us. And so you did say that talking about the issue of the clean voters list with politicians in Washington, D.C., I'm almost certain that politicians in Washington, D.C. might be asking the question in reverse, that what is it that the Guyanese people and what is it that the Guyanese politicians, the combined opposition is doing to ensure that there's a clean voters list. People love to see action, and unless they don't see action, they're saying, well, look, they have a whole host of problems in Congress, in the Senate, throughout the United States, and in their constituencies that they have to look after. Obviously, yes, they're going to sit, they're going to listen, but they're not going to make that voters list a priority. They're just not going to do that. It is up to the Guyanese to make that a priority and do something, even flood the streets in front of GCOM with thousands of people to send that message once and for all. All we're doing is crying about the voters list. We know that it is heavily padded. We know that it is a fraudulent list. We know that the PPP wants to put thousands of other folks, especially Venezuelans, on the list and so forth. We know that. But what is it that we're doing other than 2, 3, run the lane, this other body, couple other person go out there on Tuesday once per week Now, that's a good sign. It's a good start, but it is not sufficient, Mr. Mahipaul. And that's just my take on that. If you wish to spend another 30 seconds on that before we move on, we can move on. But I noticed
Mark,
you smiling. Yeah.
let me say this to you, Mark. I don't know if we're supposed to go and drag the people out by their feet. Because on your program, on many other programs, on all the programs that we have in the public space, we continue to appeal to Guyanese to understand the implications of not having a clean voters list. We continue to make that call. But I can understand how Guyanese are operating at this point in time. It is not easy when you have a regime that controls the public purse, that decides to discriminate against you when you stand up for what you know and believe in and for what your constitutional right enshrines for you. I have said umpteen times that the Constitution of this country, Article 147, gives me as a Guyanese that legitimate right to associate myself with whichever political party I want to, or even if I want to associate myself with any other organization. That's a God-given right that I have. My constitution, my supreme law allows me to enjoy that. But there are people in Guyana who are fearful of making themselves public for that constitutional right because they will be sidelined and discriminated against. As long as you are an Afro-Guyanese associated to the People's National Congress Reform or the APNU-AFC, you are being discriminated against. If you are outspoken, you may have one and two that the PPP will grab and give some position and then put that one or two out there and shout that they are all inclusive. Like if we are fools to believe that. If you're an Amerindian Guyanese and you're outspoken against this government for what is termed as discrimination, you are being discriminated. They will share their cash grant and they will skip your house. And they will do it blatantly. If you're an Indo-Guyanese like myself and you speak out and speak up against the PPP because of their malpractices, you are going to be discriminated against. I have been discriminated against. I am one of the loudest person that speaks against the People's Progressive Party because of their practice. You know, Mark, that the very day they were put into office, the next day, the Monday morning, I was given a letter to vacate the house I was occupying. You know that. A couple of days after, I was transferred from Region 3 to Region 1. A couple of days after, I was dismissed. I was given 4 disciplinary charges. And if I faced that, and many are not like me, as courageous as I am, many are not as strong as I am, I face cuss out from Indian people who look like me because they somehow believe I'm supposed to be PPP. My family faces embarrassment because I am an outspoken Indian supporting what they think is a non-Indian party. And it is not easy, but I do it because I have a firm belief and a firm conviction that I'm fighting for a better Guyana, and I'm associated with a political party that is all-inclusive. I know that my political party is fully democratic, represents all of Guyana, irrespective of their political affiliation. And for the thousands who are afraid to speak, I have no problem standing up and representing them. And I will say to the PPP, that they can continue to hate me, they can continue to chastise me, they can continue to put people to speak ill of me, they can continue to formulate their propaganda. All I will say, bring it on. I am strong, and I am still willing and will always be willing to challenge anybody that I believe or any organization that I believe is operating in a discriminatory way against my fellow Guyanese people.
Ganesh Mahipaul, Member of Parliament. It's 30 minutes after 9 o'clock. I'm Mark Benshop, and for those of you who are now joining us, welcome to Straight Up. In 1997, thousands of people took to the streets. They sent that message. The unions, all of the unions, or most of the unions were involved in that, and the unions are to be credited for that protest. The members of those unions are to be credited for the 1997 protest action that saw the PPP got to the bargaining table. Thousands of people went out. And then in 2000 and 2001, just prior to the elections, and I just want people to know that the 1997 elections, there was an election petition, and it was vitiated by Claudette Singh, who was a High Court judge at that time. In 2000 and 2001, there were thousands of people took to the streets. People weren't afraid in 97. They weren't afraid in 2001. They weren't afraid when thousands of people went and they took to the streets in Linden for what is right. When thousands of people hit the streets, a government becomes paralyzed. A government is forced, whether they're installed or not, they're forced to take to the table to bargain, to negotiate. When they see that struggle and they see that fight, their knees begin to tremble. The PPP knees are not trembling at this point because they're not seeing that sort of struggle that we were accustomed to in 97, in 2001, or even in Linden. They can't fire everybody. They can't knock everybody off. But oftentimes people might say, oh, we are afraid of the PPP. That's why we're not going out there. That, to me, is not the proper message for the people. People want to see brave MPs. They know that Ganesh Mahipaul stands up and he resists. He doesn't back down against the fight and the insults, as you've mentioned, and we are aware of those insults coming from the PPP. But they need to see other fighters who have been elected to represent their interest. They need to see and hear the fighters in Parliament who are saying, look, do or come or do or die. We are here to represent the people, even if we got to spend one day in Camp Street, even if we got to spend one day in Brickdam. That is what leaders do. Leaders are brave to stand up and represent their people. Leaders are not just basically going out there and just excuses as to why they can't protest, why they can't this, or why they can't that. I know a little bit about that. I know a little bit about hitting the streets and so forth. And I know a little bit about what brings Jack Dale down on his knees. Protest, mass protest. But moving on, Mr. Mahipaul, in terms of the corruption of contracts and corruption all over the place, thankfully, and kudos to you, you have taken on them now. And this is according to a report. Following questions raised by APNU AFC Member of Parliament Ganesh Mahipaul, the NDIA, which is the National Drainage and Irrigation, The National Drainage and, so go on. Yesterday disclosed that a $978 million, almost $1 billion contract for a pump station at Blackbush Polder quarantine was terminated in September for poor work, and several others had been granted extensions for a variety of reasons. Now, this is depriving people in Blackbush Polder, many of whom voted for the PPP, or some stayed home, but their names ended up on the list. Congratulations and kudos to you for this. But why are they allowed to steal the money and all this corruption, sir?
Mark, let me elaborate on this pump station issue so that the people can understand. The pump stations are needed. They are needed to assist farmers. They are needed to assist residents to ease flooding. And I support the construction of pump stations across Guyana, across the low-lying belt of regions 2 to 6. But my problem has to do with the manner in which the contracts are being awarded. And I think that we have fundamental issues with the National Procurement and Tender Administration. These issues that I've raised that is circulating in the media of recent surrounding these pump stations are information that I've gathered from contractors. They're information that contractors called and produced and told me to represent for them. And I am comfortable knowing that I am doing that. Now, NDIA is the procurement entity that advertised for these contracts. And the National Procurement and Tender Administration, they are responsible for evaluating the bidders and for them to make the award. The board makes the award. We had 4 contracts the other day that raised the eyebrow when it was recognized that a company associated with the popular social media commentator, whom I think is very disrespectful, the Guyanese critic, Tapui Group, received a contract for $800 and something million. I don't have a problem if the Guyanese critic has a company and he bid for contract and he was evaluated fairly and won that contract. But I found it extremely strange that the National Procurement and Tender Administration responded to the issues that were highlighted and they tried to bamboozle the Guyanese people. What they did was to basically say, and this is MPTAB, National Procurement Tender Administration Board, what they did was to say to the Guyanese people that for these 4 contracts, which are the construction of pump stations at Metamere-Zorg, Podroin, Bellevue, and Jimbo Grove, that there were 26 bidders. And from those 26 bidders, 13 of those bidders were disqualified for non-compliance, meaning they didn't satisfy the evaluation criteria. And the remaining 13, when they have evaluated and they were found to be responsive bidders, the National Procurement and Tender Administration Board awarded the lowest, most responsive the contract for the construction at Metamere-Zorg, the Metamere-Zorg pump station. And they went and awarded the second lowest responsive bidder, the one at Podroin, and the third lowest responsive bidder to Bellevue, which happens to be the Tapui Group or the Guyanese Critic Company. The issue I have is that the MPTAB, the National Procurement and Tender Administration, lied in that release because the history and the records that are in the public domain would prove that for each one of those pump stations, there were different numbers of bidders. For example, the Metamere-Zorg pump station saw 26 bidders. The one at Podroin, I think, got 23 bidders. The one at Bellevue got 27 bidders. And the one at Jimbo Grove got 30 bidders. I may be mixing up the numbers per pump station, but those are the numbers. 26, 23, 27, and 30. It is in the public domain. What the tender board did was to evaluate each one, but it didn't tell us that. So yes, for Metamere-Zorg pump station, you may have awarded it to the lowest, most responsive. Very good. But when it comes to Podroin and when it comes to Bellevue, you have basically said to us in your press release, MPTAB that is, that you did not award it to the lowest, most responsive bidder, because they said in their press release that Tapui Group was the third lowest, most responsive. And they said in their press release that the other company, I think it's Well Built Construction or something like that, is the second most responsive. When the Procurement Act is very clear, you award the contract to the lowest, most responsive bidder. So after that issue, I recognize that there is need for me to look into all of these pump stations. And in digging for information, I found that these other pump stations, like the one at A-Line, at Versailles, the one at Canal number 1, southern end, the one at Charity, the one at Kosher, the one at Blackbush Polder, the one at Cottage on the west coast of Berbice Region 5, that these pump stations were awarded since 2001 and some in 2002. And these contracts had a start date.
You mean 2001?
2021, sorry, my apologies. Yeah, 2021 and 2022. And these contracts had a start date and they had a 1-year period to complete the work. And all of them have passed that completion date, and none of them are at least 30% completed as yet. And I decided to ask some pertinent questions because we are talking about multi-million dollars contracts. And it must concern us because it is our money. Ministry of Agriculture, after I made the inquiry, and for people who want to have more information on it, they can simply Google pump station, Ganesh Mahipaul, or NDIA pump station, construction of pump station, whatever you want to Google around the topic, and it will pop up because it's in the public sphere. Ministry of Agriculture now thought it best to respond to what I have outlined. And in their response, I found it very strange that they were defending the incompetence of these contractors that were awarded these projects and to date cannot complete it. And they made some frivolous claim that the reason is because squatters were at Charity, disturbing the Charity contractor. Vendors and boatmen and so on were at the A-line area and canal number 1. And I don't dispute that, but the problem I have is that all of these encumbrances were removed before a start date was decided upon. These contracts were awarded in April. From April to June, they cleared the encumbrances and they began the work in June of 2022. So they were supposed to finish in 2023 June, and some of them had a longer period, but their due date for completion is long past. And I don't know if there were variations to the contracts that attracted more money. I don't know if those sums that are out there is the accurate sum at this point in time. Because when you pass the due date, it could be various reasons indeed. Could be that there is variation to the contract that has attracted another cost. All of these are things that the Ministry of Agriculture should have cleared up. But Mark, there's a particular company called Well Built Construction. And this Well Built Construction, the report that I have from the National Drainage and Irrigation Authority, that is the PSIP report, which is a legitimate legal document that is dated the 12th of September, shows that this company is constructing a pump station that is 25% completed. 75% is not completed. But I noticed that the Ministry of Agriculture added a line or two more to defend that particular company and that particular pump station. So it got me a little ticklish up in my head there. And I went and I dug for some more information. And I am told that that company has some close associates that are very, very much associated to big ones within the Ministry of Agriculture. And I am promised 2 very important documents that I will receive very soon. And those documents I will make public to show what I mean. And I will tell you who that company is registered to. And I will tell you where it is happening, where the little wickedness is happening. But let me confirm it first, so that when I speak, I will speak from substance. But I know that there is enough to draw this firm conclusion that there are some connection to this well-built construction company and some other big ones at the Ministry of Agriculture.
And
And I say
and,
again, there's another company.
Since you're saying that, let's say, let's hope that the the installed Minister of Agriculture, Zulfikar Mustafa, is watching, and his sons and others over there at Bloomfield Village under quarantine. Lots of people are suddenly contractors, big contractors. We're glad that you were able.
Some people that echoes on the East Bank, East Bank area there too.
We're glad that you were able to unearth that, and kudos to you. I noticed a question from Mr. Sherwin Green here concerning the Guyanese, and his question is, and I'll ask you, what qualifications or what qualifies the Guyanese cricket? Sorry, that's anyway, same photograph. What qualifies the Guyanese cricket for these contracts, Mr. Mahipaul? What qualifications? What qualifies him?
Well, listen, anybody can become a contractor. And that's perhaps the sad reality of the country and the Procurement Act. Anybody can become a contractor. All you have to do is have a business registration, NIS compliance, and GRA compliance. And when you acquire those two compliances and you have your business registration, you can go and buy a bid document at any of the procuring entities, and you can bid for contracts, and you can have bid security and so on. But not necessarily being the lowest bidder or the highest bidder means that you will get the contract. What you have to be is the lowest, most responsive bidder. What that means is that in the standard evaluation criteria to receive this contract, you have to satisfy the criteria. So the criteria could be: one, you must show that you have experience in constructing projects of a similar nature. So you now, as the company, you have to produce evidence that you can construct projects of that magnitude. If you prove that, then you will get a tick next to your name, meaning that you have complied with that criterion. The second criterion could be that you must show bid security. So you must show that you have the money to do the work. And if you can have perhaps a bank or whatever lending agency or somebody to show that they are willing to give you $500 million in credit. Once you can show that, or $1 billion in credit, once you can show that, you can also be ticked off. So the process is a stringent process. The problem lies with the people who are administering the process. And you will find that in administering the process, there is where jiggery-poggery would normally happen. So as a legislator, I have made this call, and I'm going to use your platform to do the same, that there is need for us to fix the procurement laws of this country. There is need for us to amend the Procurement Act of 2003 and cater for greater scrutiny. I believe that contractors, their documents that they are submitting should be digitized and publicized. So the public must see that they all have business registrations. They all have GRA compliances. They all have NIS compliances. They all have bid security for whichever project requires the bid security. So all the documents that they have to prove of their compliance, it must be made public. The only thing the evaluators should focus on is the figures. So when it comes to evaluating now, we will know that Tapui Group, who's the Guyanese Critic Group, that group has met all the compliance requirement in terms of document submission, and then we look at the figure to see if they have the lowest figure or the second lowest or the third lowest. You have to have better management and better apparatus in place to administer the system, because the fault is with the people who are populating the system, and they are responsible for doing the wickedness, if I may term it that way. You know, Mark, I always tell people that stringent laws, stringent rules, and all of these bureaucracy, they don't come about just like that. They come about because of how people operate. If we had a system where people took upon themselves the moral values of their job, and they do it for the love of the job, and they were honest enough and devoted enough to ensure that they do the right thing, then we would not even need a procurement, an amendment to the procurement law. But we don't have that. We have wicked people in the system. We have friends, families, and favorites of the PPP in the system, and that is what is creating the problem at the National Procurement and Tender Administration. And I believe that there is need for an investigation in the operation of MPTAB, in the operation of the Evaluation Committee at MPTAB, in the operation generally at the National Procurement and Tender Administration. That is an organization that is supposed to guarantee contractors and bidders security in terms of transparency and accountability. But when you have several contractors complaining of the operation of that entity, it forces you as a lawmaker and a legislator to lean in the direction of calling for a COI into the operations of that body, and it leans you in the direction of ensuring that you call for a revamp and amendments to the legislation. And I hope that when these legislations, these amendments are tabled in the National Assembly, I hope that the installed regime will find it best to support the amendments, to even strengthen it where they may believe it needs some more strengthening, rather than to just vote it down. Because the minute they go down the road of voting it down and not supporting the amendments, will solidify the claim that they also have their hands in the cookie jar, even though we know that already.
Yeah, don't hold your breath on that. They don't want to do anything at GCOM with the voters list. They don't want to do anything at all with Gaisuko. Billions and billions of dollars wasted and gone into the pockets of the cronies there. We know the fat cats like Sis Narayan and these guys and so forth. Mr. Mahipaul, let me just say kudos. You guys are doing a great job, especially you, what you have done with unearthing what's happening there with the tender board and the corruption, massive corruption. You get crickets and all these cricket insects getting contracts, billions of dollars of contracts and so forth. Recently, I
wanted to say another thing, Mark. I'm also told.
Yeah, sorry. Recently, we heard also of what your colleague has basically written to GRA as it pertains to $240 million US dollars. Kudos to Roysdale Ford as well. Corruption upon corruption. But I wanted you to give shed some light on this here, this other corruption in Linden. But you were saying something. This is the school, unfinished school in Linden, almost 300 million Guyana dollars.
Yeah, I was going to say that I also have what I would like to believe as credible information that another company, and I will not call the name as yet, I will dig for some more information, but I know that the information so far, and believe it so far, that another company that is receiving millions of dollars in contracts is also associated with an ex-minister of the government. So all of these are things that are brought to our attention, and we will have to do what is right to expose them, because it's not fair to the Guyanese people. If you want to do or be a part of the system by way of being a contractor and getting jobs and so on, do it the right way.
But that through the procurement commission and so forth, that ex-minister, the contracts have been going to him since he was a minister. Now he's no longer a minister, but his son has always been there. And good evening to that ex-minister if he's watching.
Well, I think he's running mad at this point in time, because he's always on social media saying some craziness and driving around trying to chastise the population.
But you guys had an opportunity to confront that ex-minister, and the allegations are leveled against Dharam Lal, who's that ex-minister, and his close relative that got millions, hundreds of millions of dollars of contracts. Was it?
I remind you.
Was it challenged? Was it? 1 second. Did you guys challenge this guy in Parliament to expose the nepotism and the alleged corruption?
Mark, I will remind you to Google the company name Designs Unlimited, DESIGNZ Unlimited, and getting contracts, and you will see that my name will pop up there again. Because when it was brought to my attention and when the evidence came out, I was the one who exposed it. So I want you to know that I will continue to do that. That is what I'm being paid for. I'm being paid to represent the people. I'm being paid to stand up for them, and that is what I have been doing.
And we can't say no about that. You're just one of the few members of Parliament who do that.
Well, focus on me for tonight, because I'm only hearing you saying that we have all kind of, focus on me. I'm your guest tonight.
57 minutes after 9 o'clock. My name is Mark Benchop. Ganesh Mahipaul, who held shares here at Benchop Radio. He's no longer part owner of Benchop Radio. But Mr. Mahipaul, give us, as we look at the time, please, how do you feel about this? You were there in Georgetown. You see the police here driving around. How does this make you feel, sir?
I think this is totally disrespectful, and embarrassment, and a shameful act. And Robeson Ben should hang his head in shame. You putting on the vehicle police here? You know what is it that we have going on right now with Venezuela? This Guyana-Venezuela controversy. And you are going to tell me that you're putting police here for them to show, for what? To show inclusion and to show whatever else reason they give. If such is the case, then why you don't have a Chinese writing there that means police? This country has a lot of Chinese. Why don't you have some other writings that come from the other, that represents the other ethnic groups that are in Guyana also? Why you have to stick to Spanish?
Or they could even put the Rastaman tag. They could just put Babylon.
But Mark, there are countries that are more diverse than Guyana, the United States of America, England, India, Pakistan, name the country, Australia, England. They are more diverse than Guyana. I should stick to the United States of America because they are full of different groupings from all over the world. Do you see them putting policia on their vehicle? Do you see them putting some Dutch word to mean police? Or some other language on their vehicle? There is a place in America called Little India. Do you see them having a Hindi word there for to represent police? Listen, this is total nonsense. And I will ask the Shadow Minister of Home Affairs to put a question in the National Assembly for Robeson Ben to answer, where she must ask how much money was spent to put this word on all the police vehicles.
And who got the contract?
Who got the contract?
Yes.
The value of the contract and the duration of the contract.
But who got the contract, though? Because you were after these guys on contracts. Who got this contract?
No, but I don't know who got this one, but I will be digging for it.
Please do dig for it. Dig for it, Ganesh, Policia. Before we go, though, I want you to comment about this. Nobody's against immigration at all. We go all over, and even in America, America was built by immigrants and free labor and all these manner of things. In Guyana, you know, nothing is wrong with immigrants. We got immigrants as of now coming from Bangladesh, India. A few from Nigeria are allowed. No one from Haiti is allowed in. But we have thousands of Venezuelans and Brazilians and so forth. Take a look at this video, sir. we saw that there, but let me just caution Francine Chin, Francine Cruz, sorry. Francine Cruz is saying, well, if Ganesh want to defend those lazy MPs, we'll beat him. Let me just say to you, Francine, that doesn't happen here. We do not promote that here at all. And I appreciate the fact that you stay up every night to watch our show, but there will be no beating and no threats of beating at all. I see Ganesh smile because Ganesh wouldn't take any beating anyways from a Francine Cruz.
Mark, but you know, I've always said, and you know that this is my position. We may differ on it. We can agree to disagree. We can disagree to agree. But I've always held the position, and I will.
Some of you guys are for research and read up, and go ahead.
I am continue to hold to the position that our strength as a group is not one where all of us have to come on this program or be on any program and speak as I am. Some of the information that I have is information that I got from my other MPs who have dug for this information. There are people who have strengths and weaknesses. I can't do what some of the other MPs do too. I can't, and they can't do what I can do. We have to understand that. We have to understand that this is a collaborative effort where we put our strengths together and we seek to achieve the same goal. I can tell you about the strengths of Ronald Cox in Region 1. I can tell you about his weaknesses too. I can tell you about the strengths and weaknesses of Sherwin Hole in Region 2. Even myself, I have great weaknesses too, you know. We have Maureen Philadelphia, Nima Flubes, Kathy Hughes, Ricky Ramsarup in Region 4. Region 5, we have Vince Roy Jordan. Region 6, Dinesh Jai Prashad. 7, Don Hastings. 8, Richard Sinclair. 9, Vincent Henry. 10, we have Devin Sears and Jermaine Figueroa. And then we have the top-up MPs too. Roycedale Ford, Amanzo, Walton Desir, Tabitha Sarabu, Halley, Annette Ferguson. Even the leader, Aubrey Norton, David Patterson, Kemraj Ramjatan. We are all in this together. And we all have our strengths and our weaknesses. And if we focus on whether who's doing what and who's not doing what because it's not satisfactory in your eyes, then we're defeating the purpose. And the purpose is to expose the People's Progressive Party and what they're doing. And if we divert from that, then we're allowing the People's Progressive Party to get away with squandering the taxpayers' money, stifling the ordinary people, punishing the ones who want to work honestly, and the hard-working tax-paying Guyanese are left at the hands of a criminal regime that seems to have no interest in lifting them out of poverty, but to fatten their own pockets with the hard-working tax-paying money. To come to your earlier position now that you want
before you go to the earlier position, let me say good evening to some of those MPs that you mentioned their names. I almost forgot that they are MPs. You mentioned Mr. Sears out there in Region 10. You mentioned some others. You didn't mention some, but let me say good evening to Karen Cummings and all these other people.
I mentioned all that I could have remembered.
I know. Especially
and Dr. Karen Cummings is an excellent MP in the health faculty, and I think she's doing exceptionally well in the health faculty. And to the others that I did not mention, it's because their name didn't come to me directly. But I can spend another hour here.
Yeah, I know, Mr. Mahipal. Mr. Mahipal, I know. I really do know. You mentioned their names. They're all.
Well, let me come to these Venezuelans.
Well, 1 second. They're all hard workers. Maybe at their second job, their other jobs. People want to see them hard working as MPs too. When was the last time they heard anything about Sears and standing up for anything or putting anything forward? People didn't elect MPs, or MPs weren't selected to represent the interest of the people by just doing a quick little research and passing information to Mr. Mahipal or so. Look, Mr. Mahipal, you're here. I didn't invite you. I didn't invite you here to bash none of them, and this is not opposition MP bashing.
And I didn't come here to hear you bash any of them either.
No. But we call the shots here, mind you, right? And if you want, you're an MP, you never shy away from questions. You never done that. You have never done that. Mr. Mahipaul, go right ahead in terms of the Venezuelans coming in their numbers by boats.
Now let me say this, Mark. Let me say this, and this is my position, and I believe many other persons hold the same view. When you are living in a country where you are facing hardship from your government and you are suffering at the hands of your representatives and you want to seek refuge in another state and you want to get away for betterment, it should be embraced. It really and truly should be embraced. I don't support people facing hardship and turmoil, and if they can get away and get betterment for themselves and their family and their children, go right ahead. But what we have to ensure is that when you leave your shores and you come to another country, that you have mechanism in place. That is, the government and the authority must have mechanisms in place to have accountability for the people who are coming into your country. There must be officers registering them by way of collecting their names, not by way of giving them birth certificates, like if they were born in Guyana, but you must register their names and you must register their age, you must register where they're coming from, and you must have a record of the people who are seeking refuge in your country. But you must not bring them and throw them haphazardly all over your country, seek to give them birth certificates. They don't even know to speak English in some instance, but they have a Guyanese birth certificate, and they can automatically reach on the electoral list of our country. That must not happen. That we must not have. So I'm saying to you, Mark, that as much as I support and I engage in the supporting of families seeking refuge in another country for betterment, I believe that your country must be one that has proper systems in place to account for the people as they come. And you must also know when to put a full stop, because you cannot take in and you don't have enough for your own, much less where you're going to get for the others that are coming in. So it is a chicken and egg situation, because when you bring in a set of people in your country, you have to divert resources to cater for them, and you cannot have them in an environment where perhaps a disease could be on the outbreak and those kind of things. No medical expert, but common sense would teach you that you have to protect your own first and foremost, and then you have to look at the others. But I'm not against people seeking betterment for themselves and their families. But I want my government to have proper checks and balances in place to account for the people who have come, and to also ensure that they don't neglect their own who are suffering here in Guyana.
Well said, Honorable MP. Always hard working on the ground there, and that is why the people give you the kudos you well deserve. But I don't know, maybe something that you can check as a parliamentarian, a lawmaker there in Guyana, whether it is true that the PPPC regime, the installed PPP regime, is receiving millions of US dollars to ensure that they take certain amount of Venezuelan nationals into Guyana. We also know that they were getting monies to look after the interest of persons who were deported. We don't know what has happened to that money. And I suspect that they're receiving a heck of a lot of monies now to relocate the Venezuelan nationals in Guyana. kindly check. You can't go to the guy who's responsible for information, that is Ramson Sr., Charles Ramson Sr., because we know he doesn't do anything. It's just a waste of taxpayers' monies. Mr. Mahipaul, your closing remarks, sir.
Well, I can assure you that I will, what you've just said there to me is new information. And I can assure you that I will share it with the MP group so that the MPs can also participate in digging for information surrounding that revelation and determine its credibility. And I will happily come again to speak on that once it can be verified. I want to encourage your listeners and your viewers to hold a focus. We know and we understand that the issues in Guyana are so much that it's piling up every day, making people uncomfortable. It is presenting a situation where people are generally fed up of the People's Progressive Party. But I always say that the power to unseat the government lies in our hands. Each one of us, we have that power to unseat this regime that has taken the seat without the will of the people. We have that power to remove them. We must continue to press for a clean voters list. We must continue to press for biometrics. We must continue to press for a credible list because we want a credible election at the end of the day. And once we get that credible election and the people go and they cast their ballots, I have no doubt that they will vote outright for the People's National Congress reform, if we go there as the People's National Congress reform. And if we go as a coalition, they will vote for the APNU AFC. The idea, Mark, is to understand that the people will vote for any political party outside of the People's Progressive Party and their chickens. The PPP has a lot of chickens, you know. TUF, UF, Liberty and Justice, all the other chickens you could call them. They are all associated with the PPP. The only political organization that is not associated with the People's Progressive Party is the APNU AFC. And within the APNU AFC, the People's National Congress reform is a strong force that is very, very relevant in the political dynamism of Guyana right now and will remain so for a long, long, long time. Thank you for having me, Mark, and it's always a pleasure being on your program, and I will continue to do what I do best, and that is to represent the people who are punishing here in Guyana. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ganesh Mahipaul. Hopefully we'll have Mr. The Chief Whip, Christopher, on sometime very, very soon. I saw that he was at a long, long line at KFC ordering some chicken. We hope that the long line can also be in front of GCOM.
I forgot to call Chris' name. Chris is a hard-working MP also.
I never said anything otherwise. Other than I never said that.
Good night, Mark.
Mr. Mahipaul, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Ganesh Mahipaul there for you guys, and it's always a pleasure to have Mr. Mahipaul here. He indeed, he goes out there, he gets the job done, and sometimes he take a little break. Then he comes right back out. So he's now known as the pump expert, going out there with all of the billions of dollars of contracts, giving out to their friends and their cronies. And so he reports back to us. Mind you, these members of parliament work for us. They work for the people. They are being paid by the people. And so nothing is wrong for the people to hold them accountable, to ask them, what are you doing? Other than a little quick research or pass a little information there or what. Other than that, they need the MPs to stand up for them. When was the last time you guys heard about that MP out in, where is it, Region 10, Devon Sears? I'm not knocking on the guy. The only time you hear about him is when some party, either he's throwing some dance in Linden or something like that. We don't see them in Kokwani. We don't see them in Ituni. And some of them might say, oh, we go there. But not everywhere we go, we got to show picture, you know. Not everywhere go. That is politics. You got to show the evidence. You got to show what you do. You got to show that you represent the people. Even if you're going to beauty salon, you got to show. Even if you stir up a little cook-up, you got to show. Sorry. You got to show the people what you do. You've just got to go there. Stand up and represent the people. Nothing is wrong with that. And nothing is wrong with holding these MPs accountable. Nothing is wrong. Holding your MPs or your politicians accountable is not a hate crime. It doesn't mean that you hate them. It's that you want them to go out there and represent your interests. The people in Region 6 got serious problems. The people in Region 5 got serious problems. The people in Region 4 got serious problems. In Region 3, all over the country, they got problems. Not only at KFC. My name is Mark Benshop. I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'll see you guys back tomorrow right here on 107.1 FM. The shades and the shades and the shades. And look, if this corrupt regime continues to give out Guyana cricket hundreds of millions of dollars in contracts, it's got to stop. No qualifications, no experience, no nothing other than ignorance and stupidity. There ought to be an investigation into this. How come the Guyanese cricket could get all of that contract? Who is he acting? Is he acting as a middleman for Jack Deal? We know what Sue said. And the whole big controversy about Sue. Guess what? Sue is right there in Guyana making money. He's right up in the arms of his friends them at Mohammed's Enterprise or whatever they call themselves. Sue is right there. Corruption upon corruption upon corruption. And now let me make this elusively clear. I'm not against the MPs. I'm not jealous of any of the MPs. But a lot of you may not know this. Most of those MPs have another job, you know. Because some of them say that the little money that we get as MPs is not enough. They get over $200 and something thousand per month. Over $200 and something thousand per month. But yet some of them, not all, some of them behave as though they're doing you a favor. And there's nothing, there's crumbs. We are professionals. We could go and do the other jobs. But why become an MP if you're going to complain because the people are saying that they're not seeing some of their MPs in the areas? And then some of these MPs go and right now they're probably suing and saying, Mark does do his attack. No, Mark is not. I'm not attacking you guys. I'm not attacking you guys. I want you guys to go out there and represent the people. That's all I'm saying. Sorry, as long as you represent the people. That is all. I've got to go. I've got to go. I really got to go. I love you guys. God bless you. We want to see the MPs do more, man. Jumping on Facebook and hosting a show. People didn't vote for them, guys. I remember I was there. I voted too. I didn't vote for them to represent me on Facebook. I'm out of here. I'm out of here, guys. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Same place, same time. Thanks again. Thanks again. Mahipal, Ganesh Mahipaul, Member of Parliament. And thanks all of you as well for being here with us on 107.1 FM. God bless you all. Mwah. Oh, it was hot in here tonight, right? So long.
Yeah, my name is Jacinty Caldata, Francis Vietnam, and since 1965 I become a voter, and I always place my X next to the cup, and what they are doing today, I can't take it. So I have no more vote to give to PPP anymore. I'm not going to vote anymore no more. If they have to lose by one vote, they're losing it by data.
Yeah, this is the elite team. The root team.
Hello, this is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm, located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
Guyana Babu, oh Guyana Babu, I am the very best Lebanese Babu. In the Jordan, it is a time of come. Touchdown, a nice place on me here. I'll find nothing you'll find here and there. Guyana Babu. One day me come a Josh Town and me see one tongue gal walk around. So me ask the tongue gal what she name. The tongue gal some up to me and start to come up to feet. Tongue gal me like you, tongue gal I love you. Tongue gal me like you, tongue gal I love you. Tongala, what me go do with you? Oh, Tongala, you sweet like a kalalu. Guyana Babu, oh Guyana Babu, I am the very best Lebanese Babu. In the Jordan, it is a time of come. Touchdown, a nice place on me here. I'll find nothing you'll find here and there. Need them Guyana Babu. You come we do the rumba. You come we do the zumba. Rock and roll and nagara. And the way you always a wakana. Hey man, you mouth full of good girl and you live like a rose. How I love you, don't girl, only God in heaven knows. Me go give you moon girl and me go give you star. Me go buy your house and a land with big motor car. And you pack up your grip and there we go. Me got to come back
with another one, straight up. Blackness I am. Aye. Who tell the truth? Margaret stop. Defend the ghetto youth. Margaret stop. Registration is the fruit. Margaret stop. Straight up from the root. Margaret stop. Who tell the truth? Margaret stop. Defend the ghetto youth. Margaret stop. Registration is the fruit. Margaret stop. Straight up from the root. Margaret stop. I do it for the love. Him not do it for no money. Straight up. Him attack. Educating everybody. Big up my friends and big up my family. Turn on the radio, catch the vibes, it's integrity. Straight up and SCOP stands for unity. One people, one nation, one destiny. Free up the truth in the air, even the blind can see. The deaf can need the dumb can talk, the crip can walk. Who tell the truth? Margaret stop. Defend the ghetto youth. Margaret stop. Registration is the truth. Margaret stop. Straight up from the root.